One of the most anticipated games of all time, Hollow Knight Silksong, is launching officially on September 4th, and more developers are saying, we don't want any part of that. Hollow Knight Silksong seems to be on a warpath, although it's definitely unintentional, but Team Cherry did no favors by waiting so long to announce a release date for Hollow Knight Silksong and kind of springing it on people a couple weeks before the actual official launch of the game. So that's got independent developers everywhere scrambling, and honestly, I think it's probably making a few of the AA developers that are launching around the same time a bit nervous as well. Hollow Knight Silksong is essentially the GTA 6 of independent games. We have been waiting forever for this. We usually don't have to wait this long for a highly anticipated title when it comes to an indie game, although some indie games do take that long to make, but nothing that's ever been this highly rated, sold 15 million plus units, and had the most bizarre lead up to the official, or more like finally revealing the release date of the game and showing more information, essentially going radio silent at times, only to spring up at random events or shows, or have some type of information kind of slip through the cracks. And once again, that has caused a lot of developers to go ahead and tuck their tail and run to different dates. The games in this warpath, once again, unintentional by Team Cherry, but at the same time kind of it was going to happen. I think that they knew that other developers were going to do this, considering how big of a profile their game has. Demon's School, Eternia Lucas, Baby Steps, The Little Witch in the Woods, Clover Pit, Mega Bonk. I mean, there are a multitude of games, and Hollow Knight Silksong actually launches one day before another highly anticipated AA type of title, but still a very big game, and that is Daemon X Machina Titanic Scion. So I wonder how Marvelous feels about that launching right after Hollow Knight Silksong, especially because there's a lot of positive buzz with the demo that was recently released with the game. So I would definitely feel for a lot of these developers of these independent games. You've been working years on these titles and everything seems to be going good. You've got a nice release date set up around early September. There aren't really too many big AAA games around that time. There really isn't anything to worry about, and all of a sudden this behemoth comes smashing through out of nowhere from Gamescom with the official release date, and you just know this is going to be a massive deal overall. People have really been waiting for this game. There was thousands upon thousands of people waiting for the Hollow Knight Silksong official live stream. There just really isn't anything like this when it comes to independent games, and a lot of these developers absolutely know that. Now, we also got some more information that Hollow Knight Silksong will be getting physical editions in early 2026. So if you feel that you want to wait for a physical edition, you can, but Nintendo platforms will be first. So probably Nintendo Switch 1 and Nintendo Switch 2. Now, I don't know how they're going to handle the Nintendo Switch 2 version before anybody says, hey, look, is it going to be a game key card or not? I don't really know. They just said that there's going to be physical editions, so I'm hoping that they actually give a number of options. Hopefully the normal actually on the cartridge version of it, but it is going to be 2026, so things can definitely change by early 2026 when it comes to the manufacturing, the process, the price. There could be different things that happen there, but I know that they already have to start setting that stuff up just so they can actually have that done by early 2026, but there's no actual set release date for that. But yes, there will be a physical edition first on Nintendo platforms, then on other systems. So Hollow Knight Silksong, unintentional warpath, essentially delaying multiple other games and getting some people a bit nervous when it comes to their games launching in that same month. But I think at the same time, I think that it's a good thing that a highly anticipated game like this, people are excited about it. I think Team Cherry is finally excited about it, and we can finally get this whole Silksong game out. People can enjoy it. People have been waiting for more than a half decade, so it makes sense, man. This is just cool that it's finally coming out. Of course, I'll be playing the game day one on the Nintendo Switch 2 right here on this channel. So what do you guys think about Hollow Knight Silksong and its warpath of delaying multiple different independent games? Let me know in the comment section below. But before we get to the next topic, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos as soon as they drop. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to the next thing here. And we're going to be talking about what Square Enix had to say about Final Fantasy VII Remake on the Nintendo Switch 2. So for those who don't know, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is an enhanced version of the PlayStation 4 title originally that came out back in 2020 called Final Fantasy VII Remake. So they call it Intergrade, and it actually has better lighting and smoother graphics, and they have a PS5 version of that. And there's also some new content in there as well with new characters and everything. It's actually a really nice version of the game. The Nintendo Switch 2 version is the PlayStation 5 version, it seems, based off of the initial technical analysis from Digital Foundry, and of course the fact it's called Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade and it's got that extra content, so that's definitely a good thing. Now there was some talk from a hands-on expo or something like that the game was going to be running at maybe 40 frames per second or maybe even 60 frames per second. There was kind of all over the place when it comes to the footage because it looks so smooth and nice, and then apparently there was a Square Enix rep that said 40 frames per second. I reported on that, but in my video I also said, hey guys, we got to wait for an official confirmation when it comes down to it. Don't just assume that these reps at all of these shows know exactly what they're talking about, because I've been around the block and I know that multiple times, like, reps will say things and it ends up not actually being the case overall. So Square Enix saw all this and decided to clear it up on Twitter, saying this: Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade launches this winter on Nintendo Switch 2, running at a stable 30 frames per second, offering smooth performance and crisp visuals. That's it. That's what they said. That's what it's going to be. There isn't, for right now at least, not going to be some type of performance mode or anything. They're just announcing this when it comes down to it. Now, once again, that could change in the future, but for right now, we have to take it for what it is right now, and that is the 30 FPS, smooth performance, crisp visuals. Now, some people, that might be a deal breaker for them. They want to be able to play it maybe in 60. Now, obviously, I don't think you're going to be able to get this level of game on the Nintendo Switch 2 running at 60 without it looking similar to the PS1 version of the game somehow. So I think that was off the table. There was some talk, like I said, people kind of excited maybe for a 40 FPS version, but I was definitely skeptical overall. But 40 FPS would be nice too. So I think that 30 FPS is not ideal, but I do think that it's going to play well. And of course, having a portable version of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade without having to deal with PC portables is going to be a big deal overall. So I think most people are probably going to play it and enjoy it. I played Final Fantasy VII Remake originally on the PlayStation 4 Pro at 30 FPS and had a blast playing it. Obviously, it's smoother on PlayStation 5, so if you want that version, it's still available, and it's also coming to Xbox Series X and S overall, so that will probably run at 60 FPS, so you could pick it up there if you don't have PlayStation or PC. So there's all sorts of options for this. I think that for a lot of Nintendo fans overall, just being able to get this type of big game on the system anywhere that you want, on the TV and also portable, is worth giving up that, because you are going to get it anywhere that you want. But I think just as long as they have really good response timing with the game, I think it should be fine. If there's a lot of input delay and all that with the 30 FPS, it's going to end up not necessarily being ideal. But from people who played the game, they said it's actually super responsive and it runs very nice and it looks great too on the Nintendo Switch 2 screen. So I think that it's going to be okay once the game comes out. So what do you guys think about Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade and the update that we got here when it comes to the frames per second? Do you plan on picking it up this winter, or it's probably going to be fall 2025? They're saying winter, which does stretch to next year, but I don't think that it's going to stretch to next year. I think it's going to be probably late this year, very late this year, but I think we're going to get a announcement of a release date at the next Nintendo Direct this September, which has been rumored. If you want to see that video, you can check out my video, link in the description below. I talked all about what we could see at that Nintendo Direct, and of course, I'll have updates for you guys as we go on, but Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade is still one of my most anticipated titles for the Nintendo Switch 2 this year. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section below. But now we are going to move on to the next topic here, and that is Dino Crisis. Apparently Capcom wanted to bring it back. They tried to remake it, but eventually said, nah, we ain't gonna do it. So here is the update on this. Capcom fans have been asking, have been pleading, have been begging, have been anticipating a new Dino Crisis game for decades now, and it seems at this point. And according to Capcom insider Dusk Golem, they've attempted to do it, but the results led to it just being canned overall. Now, he went on to say that there have been a couple attempts in the last decade to remake Dino Crisis. The first to do this was Capcom Vancouver before they were ultimately shut down. Capcom tried again just a couple of years ago, but the results weren't up to the management's satisfaction, so that was ultimately canned, canceled, finished, zipped up, all done. They just canceled it. They said, we don't want to see any more of this. You guys are not up to the task of bringing back Dino Crisis in a satisfactory way for us. Now, I added that last part there, but that's essentially what Dusk Golem is saying. That's essentially when they put the project in front of them, they upended the tea table and said, no, we don't want any of this. So I think that this is interesting because obviously Capcom fans, Dino Crisis fans, we've been asking for this for a long time. Dino Crisis is essentially Resident Evil with dinosaurs, and it's fantastic. Old school Resident Evil with dinosaurs, and it's very good. I love Dino Crisis. I think it's a very solid game, and there's some great documentaries on it too. So if you haven't played Dino Crisis, or if you don't know what it's about, man, check out the documentaries and the series retrospectives. They're very good. I finished the video game, did one on Dino Crisis, and man, it was super cool. But anyway, I think that Dino Crisis needs to come back. I think that there's a way to bring it back respectfully. I think that they have to really hone in and focus on what made Dino Crisis so great in the first place. But I will say this. I wonder how they can't bring it back, but they can bring back Resident Evil. They can remake that game multiple times. They can remake Resident Evil 2. They can remake Resident Evil 3. They can remake Resident Evil 4. They can remake Resident Evil everything, essentially, at this point. But they can't remake Dino Crisis when it's essentially just the same as Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil 2. Yes, there are differences, big differences between the two types of games, but essentially, it's like, yo, this is Resident Evil with dinosaurs. Like, I wonder what was the holdup when it comes down to it. Capcom are like one of the best at remaking games and making it feel, despite having massive visual upgrades, making it feel very much like that game, but also very different at the same time. Now, you might love it if you like the original, you might like the original more, but most of the time, fans can agree that Capcom's remakes are very well done overall, and people like them, and they sell well. So I don't understand why Dino Crisis couldn't get the same thing, because a lot of Capcom's remakes, when it comes to what they do, they're pretty faithful, but then they add in extra content. Make a faithful remake with better graphics using the RE engine, then also add in a few different things here and there. So that's what got me kind of confused with this. It's like, what is the holdup? What is causing it to where it would be a problem? Now, I can understand if they were like Square Enix when it comes to remaking Final Fantasy VII, when they want to do some type of completely crazy different thing and expand it and stretch it out across multiple different generations and have it on different platforms and different DLC, intergrade, non-intergrade, all this other type of stuff that's going on. Like, yeah, that's confusing, that's harder, that takes a lot of time and effort, which, yes, remaking this game will take a lot of time and effort too, but doing what Square Enix did with Final Fantasy VII Remake is probably not advised overall when it comes to it. I think they can look back and say, yeah, that was a little bit too much. But I think that with Dino Crisis, you wouldn't have to do all that. You would just essentially have to make it a faithful remake with better graphics and then add in a few different things here and there when it comes down to it. So I'm not sure what the problem was. I'm not sure what they can do to fix it, but I think that at some point you're going to have to say, okay, let's go ahead and take a look at Dino Crisis and let's remake this and let's make it really good. I think that it would help with the variety that Capcom has. I mean, Capcom already has okay variety, but a number of years ago, after they had a financial crisis, they said, hey, look, we need to double down on what makes us money and what does good so we can actually survive as a company. And they did that. A lot of their experimental games, a lot of the other games, all that stuff got thrown to the wayside. Stuff like Lost Planet, stuff like Rival Schools, a lot of different fighting games, Darkstalkers, all the different stuff just got thrown to the side, and they essentially focused on what makes them money. Monster Hunter and Resident Evil, for the most part. And that's fine, you know, that's cool, but I think that Dino Crisis would have been nice to have, kind of to break up that of like the Monster Hunter Resident Evil, Monster Hunter Resident Evil. And yes, they do other things as well. They have Street Fighter 6, they have other good stuff, they have Kinitsugami. I mean, they do have other games, but it'd be nice to get something from one of those classic IPs remade in the type of way that they do when it comes to Resident Evil or when it comes to Monster Hunter in that style and everything. So we will see what they do going forward. I still think that this is interesting that they even tried a number of times, so I don't think they're going to give up. I think that Capcom will eventually get a Dino Crisis done for the fans, but it's going to be one of those things to where somebody else might have to step in. Maybe there is a different company that comes and kind of says, okay, we can do this. For example, like Okami with Hideki Kamiya. You know, Capcom was open, but it doesn't seem like anybody within the company could get it done. So now Hideki Kamiya is back with his new company, and now they're going to get it done. So I think something like that might have to happen. So I'm not really sure what they're going to do, but I think that there is a solution to this, and maybe they get it done sometime while we're alive at least, right? So what do you guys think about Capcom and what they have to do here with Dino Crisis? And what do you think about everything that we talked about here, from Hollow Knight Silksong and everything else, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Intergrade, a lot of cool stuff. let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.